Who's a good boy?
Hey everyone, welcome to Red Dog Props. In this video we'll be taking on the challenge of constructing a rowboat that floats in a serene pond. Let's dive right in. Around a decade ago, I painted a couple of watercolor images of a rowboat, and today I'll be attempting to recreate that rowboat using EVA foam. I began by downloading a 3D model of the boat and slicing it up in Blender, a free 3D application that's perfect for the job. Once I had the slices ready, I printed them on paper and used them to cut out the cross sections in EVA foam. I also printed a side cross section of the rowboat and the bottom hull to cut out. Using superglue, I began attaching the cross sections to the hull while reinforcing it with some heavy gauge wire. The EVA foam that I used for the cross section was 4mm. Next, I cut planks out of 2mm EVA foam. To ensure that they look like the real rowboat planks, they had to be wider near the middle of the boat. I made mine about 30% wider in the middle, and it turned out almost perfect, with the basic shape completed. I moved on to adding smaller details such as the planks in the bottom of the boat, supports, planks for seats, metal eyelets that hold the oars, and the oars themselves. Cutting EVA foam with a sharp blade is easier and makes a smoother cut. I sharpen my blades often. I've been using a thinner superglue on this project, but I think I prefer a superglue that is a bit thicker. However, the thinner stuff does flow easier into areas that are hard to reach, but it is tricky to control. To create the wire eyelets that hold the oars, I superglued them together, adding baking powder to the superglue for strength. The oar holders were a tad large, so I snipped off a bit and reshaped them. I used a grinder to make the last inch of the wood for the oars the same width as the EVA oar paddle. Then I superglued and sanded till they were smooth. Then I moved on to creating a wooden pole that anchors the boat. I used an X-Acto knife to create slices in the pole, simulating the wood texture. Then applied heat to open up the cut areas and create a realistic wood grain. Most of the time, I use black or gray Plasti-Dip to seal the EVA before painting. However, on the boat, I used a white primer and it worked out well. Acrylic paint adhered to it just fine. I found some twine that was very close to looking like rope, so I used it. I constructed the base using a combination of wood, styrofoam, and EVA foam, coated the styrofoam with a couple of layers of wood glue, and then applied gloss medium to simulate waves in the water. I got the technique for the water from a YouTuber named Scale a Ton. The next step was acrylic paint. I applied a base of brown and white to the boat and gray to the wooden pole and the ropes. I then built up the texture with layers of thin paint, sometimes applying a wash of color and then removing most of it with a paper towel, depending on the effect I wanted to achieve. I like using watercolor brushes with acrylics, but I tend to be rough on the softer brush when painting on EVA models. I painted the base white first and then used an airbrush to add gray-green, blue-green, light blue, and a wash of yellowish green to achieve the water effect. I do like using a thin wash to build up textures like a watercolor painter. I then applied 3 light coats of gloss varnish with a rattle can and used additional gloss medium to fill in the gaps around the boat, pole, rope, and water. And there you have it, the glamour shots of our beautiful rowboat. Thank you for watching. And please don't forget to click the subscribe button.